O'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger, calling attention to a problem that most of us are oblivious to. Tonight, the Magic City community joins together on this World Day Against Trafficking in hopes of bringing light to a dark issue. Human trafficking is happening every day in every community around the world, often by those closest to the victim. In fact, nearly 41% of child trafficking experiences are facilitated by family members or caregivers. Tonight, victims and advocates joined together in the fight. MTN's David Jay was at the Rise Up for Children walk and has the story.
Russ, Rise Up for Children was out there at the Yellowstone County Courthouse lawn. It was to raise awareness and to help people get the information to be able to help children.
He looked like he worked with my dad. He took my hand and he walked me down the hall. Within 2 minutes, my life changed forever.
Stephanie Anderson survived human trafficking. The idea of Rise Up for Children is to speak for the children who can't talk for themselves. Anderson says it's important for everyone to look out for possible abusers.
One of the gentlemen that stands out is a truck driver who was just taking the Truckers Against Trafficking training, and he happened to be at a truck stop. And if we can be that aware in the moment, or be that hearing voice for that child that says this is happening, we're going to be able to make a big difference.
There is a demand for commercial sex here in Billings. There's a demand in every community, and it's so prevalent that every community needs to be aware of how to notice human trafficking, the signs of human trafficking, how to report it, how to prevent it. We need to talk to parents and children about exploitation, what is dangerous online, and how there are so many predators ready and waiting to exploit children who are online. So there's a lot of education and prevention that we can do about it as well, but we need to care.
Rise Up for Children and the walk aren't the end of things. They still have more events scheduled for the end of the year and also some more information online. Russ?
All right, thank you, David. Operation Underground Railroad puts on the Rise Up for Children walk, which is now in its second year. Another search will take place this weekend for a missing hiker in the Beartooths who is presumed dead. 23-year-old Tatum Morrell went missing on July 5th. She was set to hike 5 peaks over 12,000 feet in the Beartooth Mountains outside Red Lodge. Canine search teams will be working in that area, searching several mountain peaks and numerous lakes both Saturday and Sunday. Yellowstone County's Sheriff's helicopter will also be assisting in the search. Tatum's last communication was with her mother on July 1st. Officials are asking anyone with information on Morrell to contact the Carbon County Sheriff's Office. That number is 406-446-1234. Governor Greg Gianforte was among a group of Western governors who met with President Biden today over worsening wildfires. With 66 large uncontained fires at present and 3.4 million acres already burned this season, the president says extreme heat, drought, and tinderbox conditions will demand urgent attention for years to come. The governors say they urgently need emergency fuel supplies for aerial fleets and more boots on the ground. President Biden says the situation in the West has already stretched resources thin. At the meeting, Governor Gianforte talked about our state's current wildfire emergency and said aggressive initial attack of emerging fires and more meaningful forest management is needed.
We ask that our federal partners join us in doing what needs to be done year-round to reduce the risk of catastrophic wildfires. Of the 9 million acres at high risk, 60% of those are on federal land. This makes tools like the Good Neighbor Authority and stewardship contracting more important than ever.
Today's meeting was the second meeting between Biden and the governors to discuss wildfires. Although we may see a little bit of rain this coming week, the forecasters who specialize in predicting fire weather aren't seeing any real relief for the rest of the summer. They tell MTN's Dennis Bragg there's an above average potential for fire starts all the way through September.
Outside of a snowy February, last year's dry winter had raised concerns about only average runoff in this summer's fire threat, although it looked to be only above normal later in the summer. Then the heat started.
Not so much the snowpacks, that was a part of it. It was just the unprecedented heat in the latter half of June and then continuing all the way through this month. And we really didn't get much moisture during that period anywhere in the NRGA, and some areas have had almost none.
The meteorologists in predictive services at the Northern Rockies Coordination Center are watching the potential for some moisture, but say it's not the long-term relief we need.
Thunderstorms, they can drop maybe a quarter or half of an inch, but they have a very small footprint. And the rainfall is intense and it runs off pretty quickly, evaporates, and we're still in a warm pattern. What we really need is a low pressure system coming in from the Pacific with much cooler air and clouds and steady light precipitation for 2 or 3 days, and nothing like that is in the cards.
While the Southwest has been swimming in water from monsoonal storms, the Northern Rockies have seen fairly moderate relief so far. And there's always the question of dry versus wet thunderstorms.
And some of that moisture does come up here and bring some rain, but it also brings more lightning strikes as well for fire starts. So it's a mixed blessing, really.
Richmond says the larger issue beyond the heat is the growing potential for strong winds that develop in August, combining with Montana's drought to cause not just forest fires, but open range fires.
And we have a lot of fires out in central Montana as well, and some in eastern. So those are always really vulnerable to any increase in wind, and fortunately nothing is on the shows up on the horizon yet.
So what's still to come? Well, based on the current outlook, more of the same for the rest of the summer, but there's always that chance for a quick turnaround.
So we don't see any change in our potential for forecast for the month of August. We're keeping all of our areas in the Northern Rockies above average for fire potential through August and even through September. However, sometimes in some years, you might remember in 2017, in mid-September, we had 2 upper-level low-pressure systems that brought a very quick end to the fire season. And obviously, it's way too soon to forecast anything like that. But even if that were to occur this year, the first half of September would still be very active. And that's why we're keeping that above-average potential all through September.
In Missoula, Dennis Bragg, MTN News.
It feels like we got off to such an early start with fire season as well this year. The hot temperatures kicked in real early, and of course being in a drought as well.
Absolutely, and here's where the fires are. These are the major fires around the region, Russ. As you can see, a lot of them are favoring western Montana right now, and we're still seeing a fair amount of fires across the eastern plains. It's more about potential. Plus, we have some of the smoke in the area as well. Now, we've gotten off a little easier today. You can see the darker shades around Missoula northward, and that's where we've also had the air quality issues, especially around Thompson Falls. See a little bit around Lewistown, Bozeman as well, but lighter across the eastern plains. All of this could shift rather quickly. This is how smoke looks closer to the surface over the weekend. We could get a band of a little heavier smoke even around Billings in northern Wyoming by tomorrow afternoon and evening. Closer look at the forecast details coming up in just a few minutes.
Well, the spike in COVID-19 cases continued today with 228 new cases. And now for the first time since February, Montana has recorded more than 100 active COVID-19 hospitalizations. New tonight, the Centers for Disease Control says the Delta variant is now the dominant strain of the coronavirus and is as transmissible as chickenpox. Here's Q2's Andrea Lutz with a breakdown of the numbers here in our state.
With all this talk of the Delta variant impacting our state, we're taking a look at the numbers released from the state's health department. And off the bat, finding the number of people in the hospital is up 31 across the state from last week. This is the CDC is constantly revising its guidelines for how to deal with the virus. In Montana just this week, over 1,100 new cases of COVID-19 and 9 new deaths. Flathead County has the highest number of active cases, followed by Cascade and then Yellowstone counties. But when it comes to the vaccines, there's this. Yellowstone County and Missoula counties have given out the most doses each, with some 127,000 doses. This is then followed by Gallatin and Flathead counties. Still, new data from the CDC shows the Delta variant of the coronavirus is much more contagious than previously thought, suggesting the variant may spread as fast as chickenpox.
New data that we've seen just in the last several days, but corroborated several times, is that if you are vaccinated and you are one of those rare breakthrough infections, you actually have the capacity to pass it to somebody else.
And the number of state residents who have been fully vaccinated against the virus is now at 48%. And it's Missoula County that's leading the charge at 61% of people vaccinated. Nationally, though, the U.S. is still falling behind other developed nations in vaccination rates, despite it being widely available. Still, CDC officials say infections happen in only a small portion of people fully vaccinated, even with the Delta variant. For MTN News, I'm Andrea Lutz.
The CDC director said the agency changed its mask recommendations after the new data showed some people infected with the Delta variant can spread the virus to others even after they've been vaccinated. Well, a worker shortage taking its toll on many restaurants across the state and forcing one Billings favorite to close its doors temporarily. Q2's Shaquille Cozart spoke with the owner of the Sassy Biscuit to see how the current employee shortage has affected them.
Well, due to the current employee shortage around the country, the Sassy Biscuit in Billings, a popular breakfast and lunch spot, has decided to close their doors temporarily.
I made the decision to temporarily close Sassy Biscuit, number one, because we just couldn't keep up with the demand.
Johnson said the COVID-19 pandemic made it hard for the Sassy Biscuit to retain and gain new employees. She said they did not want that to have an effect on customer service.
My main priorities is making sure that the guest experience is superb, and if we weren't able to deliver that, it was time to close our doors.
On any given day, the Sassy Biscuit can see anywhere from 200 to 700 customers. Johnson said that without being able to hire new employees, this is putting a strain on their current staff.
They are feeling overworked and they just need assistance. We've definitely seen a decline in applicants. In fact, we have had job postings for both back and front of the house for I think a couple months now. Applicants just aren't coming through.
The pandemic has put a strain on mental health and finances. Johnson said she has reevaluated wages, added incentives for new hires, and wants to create a safe space for her employees.
It's just been awesome to see how much Billings is willing to do to support us and get us back on track.
Reporting in Billings, I'm Shaquille Cozart with MTN News.
Well, Johnson said the Sassy Biscuit will reopen in a little over a week after the staff has a chance to regroup. Still to come on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2, going for gold. A British couple brings Tokyo to their own backyard, all in the name of a good cause. That story coming up. And a little later in sports, a Montana knockout. We catch up with one of the nation's best boxers, and she's only 12 years old. Her story in just a bit.